Oh, preparing to. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll just stick to this. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. Again, the aim of today is really just to all touch base. It's been a couple months since graduation day. We've just been through some updates from everyone on the line. You're very busy. Stuart's working hard on risk comms and community engagement, RRT and Morobe, and Diana, you've been pretty swamped too since graduation. Yeah, the idea is really just to get everyone thinking about abstracts, get in touch with your mentors to think about topics and start drafts, just really to inspire you, because the conferences next year are just going to be terrific. There's the global TEFINET and the regional. The regional will be in Canberra, so a great chance to connect with a lot of FETP in the Pacific and Australia. So we do really hope all fellows will submit abstracts to the TEFINET conferences, and also the PNG Medical Symposium. We're not sure when abstracts will be due. Usually, so the conferences are in September each year, and then they usually open up for the submissions around March. So a good 6 months ahead of the conference. It's a bit unfortunate that way, but yeah, they just like to have a lot of time, I guess, to review the abstracts and solidify the program. But it just means that, you know, in the lead up to Christmas, we're very busy, and then on the other side, in 2023, we'll still be busy, and we just don't want anyone to miss out on submitting abstracts to these conferences. There's also the option for the FETP International Night. I don't think anyone's submitting for that one, and it's less of a priority on our side. We definitely want to prioritize, yeah, the medical symposium. Usually has pretty good representation from FETP, I think, and of course TEFINET, where we've had lots of talks before. Are there any others that I don't know about? I think they're the ones that have been highlighted. Oh, okay. So just the regional one. Thanks, James. Yeah, I'm not aware of any other conferences, but they do pop up. So there might be other opportunities next year or 2024, especially around, yeah, the Asia Pacific region. So I guess to kick off, just to suggest to everybody to go to this website. This is the database for all the field epi abstracts that have been presented at all the TEFINET conferences. And I've certainly done this. I just look for example abstracts that where the topic or the project is similar to mine, just to help me frame, I guess, the structure and get a sense of the detail. We'll go into it later, but the word count's very short. It's only 300 words. So looking at examples can really help you when you're trying to cut down. You know, you might get it down to 500. You just got to keep cutting words, and just get right to that concise, important points you want in the abstract. So I'll open up the database. Sorry, just a second. Not sure if that audio went through. Okay, sorry. YouTube was just interrupting then. So if you go to this abstract database, so you can search for outbreak, Papua New Guinea, or search for surveillance, evaluation. Interestingly, when I search, for example, intervention evaluation, and we've noted this before, there's really not a lot of abstracts on intervention evaluation. So I'd be really excited to see if fellows could submit. I think that will be of great interest to TEFINET to see a lot more abstracts on intervention evaluation, but also surveillance evaluation and outbreaks. You know, they're all obviously important and popular topics. So that kind of just helps you narrow down, and you can browse the titles, browse the abstracts. I pulled out a few examples. So here's an outbreak. This is Mary's actually, that she presented a few years ago. But this can, I guess you could look for abstracts where the results or might be a bit similar to what you have. So you might not have done a case control where you have, you know, confidence intervals to report, things like that. So you might want to focus on abstracts that present more attack rates or demographics like Mary has here, or focus on lab testing as well. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of take some time, look at the database, and your mentors can also help. Here's one for surveillance evaluation. So you can also search for the disease. So malaria surveillance or HIV surveillance. And again, these just might help you, if anything, just to get started on a draft. You can just use this as a bit of a template and follow the structure. Here's Rosalind's intervention evaluation that she presented a few years ago. So again, there's not too many of these. And yeah, hopefully something like this serves as a good example for those of you that might want to present your interventions. So for the structure for TEFINET, apologies, I don't have the PNG Medical Symposium structure, but once we do, we'll circulate that. It's probably very similar, but they basically just have these 5 elements. So the title, background, methods, results, conclusions. And it's tough because the word limit's only 300 for these 4 sections. So doesn't include the title or the authors, but just, yeah, these 4 sections need to get everything in 300 words. This is the criteria that TEFINET circulated, and we sent this out. It's a PDF. But basically, the way they choose these abstracts, they get hundreds submitted, I think. They have 3 reviewers, and they all, I guess, give a score from 1 to 5 against 6 criteria. We'll go through, yeah, each of these criteria, and yeah, it's just something to bear in mind, I guess, because they do need a way to choose from yeah, hundreds of brilliant abstracts. I guess it's also worth noting that often if your abstract's not chosen for an oral presentation, it might be chosen for a poster presentation, and we can talk more about posters, yeah, down the track, especially if abstracts are accepted for posters. It's not something we've covered, I think, in the training, but it's just it does provide an opportunity for those that don't make it into the say 100 or so oral presentation slots. They have a whole section of the conference for posters where you can still present your results and get a lot of exposure to what you've done with the project. So background and rationale. I guess the first thing up front is just the significance of the problem or of the project. Oops, sorry. Can we do intervention evaluation on our own projects? Absolutely, Stuart. Yeah, we'll go into the different options available, but really anything you've done with during advanced it's possible to present. I think we're pretty flexible, right, James? I think many of the fellows did multiple surveillance evaluations or multiple outbreaks. It might not be one that you actually submitted. It's probably easier to do that, but it's really just a discussion with you and your mentor what you'd like to present. And yeah, we'll go through sort of some tips for what might be the best outbreak or surveillance evaluation to present. But yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, there haven't been a lot of intervention evaluation presentations at TEFINET. So that's, yeah, if that's why we're kind of bringing this up early, because you all had fantastic interventions. It's just some of you might want to get a little bit more data. And I think many of you are continuing your intervention, so you are getting that data. So that's why we just wanted to raise it now, because you could start thinking about writing an abstract now and incorporating that extra few months of data for your abstract. I guess the other thing to highlight here is the objectives. So a lot of people might miss that really key objective or aim of the project. And we know all of your projects do this. The objectives address the problem because you workshop this through the advanced program. But yeah, it's just that importance of it being very clear in the background. So methods. So described enough that the reader can understand, that it actually addresses the objective. So that this section is actually probably the hardest to get in the word count, really, because methods, as you know, they're very comprehensive a lot of the time, very complex, lots of levels, especially for many of your projects. So I think this is going to be the toughest. I think this section's always the longest too for these abstracts. But I guess a way to narrow it down is just what method really addressed the aim. Make sure you have got any case definitions, especially, and the population and data source. Okay, thanks, James. Yeah, anything that you've done during the training. There we go. So results, also really hard to get in the word count. At least with the results, you can sort of just logically follow what you said in the methods. Makes it very easy for the reader too. So this is the result for this approach. And I think it's more just are the results appropriate, especially in terms of the measures used. Many of you just had, multiple levels of results. You had quantitative and qualitative data. The trick here will be choosing the result that really leads to your public health recommendation. In 300 words, it's just what is it that what is the main result you're resting on to reach your conclusion or your recommendation? And feel free to ask any questions, Bertie and Stuart, and I'll open the WhatsApp floor for that as well for others. But yeah, happy to take any questions. So the conclusion, in these abstracts, this is often pretty short, just a sentence or two, even though, again, recommendations, you kind of want to have a lot of detail, and it's to me the most exciting part. But often, if you look at the abstracts, this tends to be pretty short and to the point. And again, it really has to link to your main result or main couple of results that that evidence for your conclusion. So is it based on the data? Does it address that problem and objective? So we know from your projects, because again, we workshop this through the program, that that you've done this. It's the trick will just be getting it concise in the word count and choosing the main recommendation you want to highlight, addressing the main result and the main aim of your project. So there's not a lot of space in these abstracts to talk about limitations. So I guess it just had to be, just have to consider that it's your main conclusion and results aren't too open to bias or confounding. There probably is room if needed to address it. But yeah, if you can just try and focus in on the most valid and reliable conclusion and result from the project, that's ideal in these really short abstracts. And does it make sense with current scientific knowledge? So I don't think there'll be too many issues there, but I guess the reviewers look for any alarm bells like, oh, I don't know that this recommendation makes sense. And probably not too much of an issue, and this is why these conclusions tend to be shorter. You might see it though in a lot of papers that the conclusions kind of just repeat the results. So just making sure that that doesn't happen in the abstract. So public health significance. I guess it just shows it does really have an obvious application to improving public health. It does solve a problem. And I guess that what they're getting at here is it's a novel solution. So again, it's open to interpretation here, but not simply repeating what's already done. Just showing again, it's derived directly from the study results and any of the recommendations. And they're likely to be effective, or you're showing that they're effective if you're reporting on an intervention. And we'll talk more about public health significance. I don't think this is a concern for anyone because again, you really workshopped the problem in your area that you're addressing, so there shouldn't be any issues here. It's just a matter of choosing, I think. Okay, and then the clarity. So again, 300 words. So no matter what, you're going to be pretty concise and direct in 300 words, but I guess that's what they're looking for, that it is logical. And I guess the reader can, the reviewer, the reader can understand what you've done and the importance of it. Again, just making sure results are in results, not creeping into the conclusion. And yeah, that the instructions were adhered to. So I think they can be pretty tough on the word count, unfortunately. So it does need to be that 300 words or less, or they might not include the abstract. So these are just some tips that they're based on those reviewer criteria, but again, I think for a lot of you, all the projects you've done are pretty fantastic and obviously significant in your area. But it's I guess between you and your mentor just discussing what do you think really leaps out in terms of the disease or risk factors in your area, what might just have that that significance that you really want to get the word out. Novelty as well. So might just we discuss it a bit more, but it's that, I guess, is it a new approach that you used, a new response method? Was it a new outbreak even, or outbreak you haven't seen for a long time? Was it a particularly big outbreak or a new source or new risk factors that you found? So that's what we're getting at with novelty. With methods, I guess when you're looking at your different projects, which of your methods do you think was more robust? So that a lot of that comes down to sample size and representativeness, especially for things like maybe your surveillance evaluation. Did you interview enough stakeholders to get a really good idea of the gaps and recommendations? For interventions, did you address root causes? Things like that. And results that just really clearly demonstrate the importance of the issue. So maybe in terms of the attack rate, if it's an outbreak, in terms of the impact from your outbreak response or intervention, you show a real decrease in the health indicators, or a real health impact, or yeah, your intervention has clearly had an impact. And this is why I just wonder if, because many of you are continuing your intervention and continuing to get data, that's why we're just sort of raising this now. And then, yeah, clear recommendations too. So at the end of the day, we're looking for very clear recommendations or interventions that that you've demonstrated are likely to have an impact. So again, this is my little brainstorm. You're not limited to these projects at all, but these were sort of the major projects that you completed through advanced. The outbreak investigation, surveillance system evaluation, and the intervention. And within that intervention, you could also, again, word count's an issue, but just like we did in workshop 3, you do bring in your operational research findings because that informed what you chose for your intervention. So yeah, just my brainstorm. I don't know if it'll help, but when you're trying to choose between these, with the outbreak, was it a new disease or something that was really significant, especially for your area? Did you have a new approach? So many of you had some very unique approaches with the outbreak or the intervention, especially in terms of community engagement or participatory approaches that I think would be really interesting to present. So just considering that. With the surveillance system, I think many of you evaluated systems that hadn't been evaluated before, but just I guess if you did find some really clear gaps and have recommendations that are likely to improve the system, and you did engage a lot of stakeholders, so you're quite confident in what you found, that would be yeah, another terrific topic to present. I think the surveillance systems and the public health interventions, they're just based on my browsing in the databases. There's not a lot of abstracts about those. So TEFINet will be pretty interested in that. With the public health intervention, if you saw a very obvious impact, that would be great as well to present. And many of you are still collecting data, so you might be starting to really see that impact in terms of, health indicators or increase in knowledge or whatever it was that you measured, but also that likelihood that the intervention will continue. So Dr. Gilbert's been reaching out to a lot of you. It sounds like a few of you have presented your policy briefs and even have funding for continuing the intervention, which is terrific. So that's something that you can consider. If that's the case, then would really encourage you present your intervention because you've actually done that, gathered that evidence base for more funding and for the intervention to continue. So very impactful to present that, I think. Okay, and yeah, if there's anything else I've missed, so this is just a brainstorm. I'm sure you guys have some more ideas. It's not easy. I think you all had terrific projects. I think it's okay if you want to draft 2 abstracts and submit those, or just choose one. It's up to you. But and I don't think also that you're limited to the projects. It might take some discussion with your mentor and thinking outside the box a bit, but you could even present on your experience. I think a lot in TEFINet would love to hear about the impact FETP has had in your day-to-day work or your place in the PHA. I guess when you look at the criteria, though, they're pretty interested in epi studies. So I don't know, James, if you think those sort of abstracts might be accepted, but yeah, I think there's a few people that might have experiences that they might want to present outside of these topics. But again, more than happy to chat about that or to chat with your mentor if that's the case. Did anyone have any questions straight up? Oh, hi, Israel. Thanks for joining. And Kirsten. So Stuart and Diana, Bernie, are you thinking, do you have an idea on what you want to present? You mentioned your intervention, Stuart, but any ideas, or you want to go away and think about it for a bit?
I'm looking at one of outbreak or intervention, but Kerstin is also online. She's listening here. I'm very busy at this point in time to complete my projects with a graduate certificate before I get to Brisbane next year in January 2nd week. So I am still yet to make decision, but I will have to make appointment with Kerstin. We will be having separate conversation outside from this big presentation here to decide on what to be done.
Terrific. That sounds great, Stuart. And good for you to think about it now, since you will be so busy from January. And are you still getting data for your intervention?
It's ongoing. When I started off, the nurses are still being allocated to the sections. They're still administering vaccines, the bed doses vaccines. So it's ongoing.
Hi, Stuart. Yeah, I understand you've got a lot going on with your other course as well. So yeah, happy for you and I can catch up and think about what's an efficient way to be able to get an abstract in if you're interested around everything else going on.
Yep, thank you.
Terrific. Thanks, Kirsten. And yeah, exciting to hear. Again, I think we definitely encourage everyone to especially consider the intervention. It's a unique aspect for FET-PNG. TEFINET haven't really had that many intervention presentations. It'll be quite inspiring, I think, for the broader FETP global community to see the intervention projects. Did I see Peter join? Oh, hi, Peter. Thanks for joining.
Is on mute.
Yeah, looks like you're on mute, Peter. But yeah, appreciate you joining. We recorded this session, so it's we'll be able to send a YouTube link and we'll send the slides out. Mostly we just covered the criteria for abstracts and some tips for choosing a topic, because we know you've all got amazing projects. It's hard to choose just one or two. And really just to get everyone thinking about it, because time does fly, especially around Christmas. We hope to see a lot of the cohort in Canberra next year. Oh, I can see. Is there a hand up? Or are you just saying hi, Peter? Sorry, you're on mute. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, or I hope this has been good food for thought for everybody. I know Stanley's thinking of writing up his outbreak. He had a very interesting community engagement approach that, yeah, that I think he's very keen to present. So I think we'll get a nice mix of abstract topics. I think it's just that, yeah, we really want to avoid a last minute rush in March, because we want everyone to draft, have a good chance at drafting the best abstract they can. No worries. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you joining. And I'm not sure, Israel, if you can hear us. Well, I heard, Israel, from Meg that you were able to finish your intervention, and oh, great. Yeah, able to do your intervention at 9 Mile, which is terrific news. So can't wait to hear how that went. Yeah, no worries, Israel. Look forward to hearing about how it went at 9 Mile and yeah, what you're thinking for an abstract. Okay, well, I'll send the slides out. And just, yeah, a reminder to everyone to get in touch with their mentor. I think most people are going to start drafting next year, January, February next year, which makes sense. But if those of you who want to present the intervention, it's just that matter of gathering more data to show the impact. That's what we really don't want to miss out on. We know a lot of you were starting to see that. It was just a bit of a short time frame to measure the evaluation, but by March next year, I think many of you will have terrific results, and hopefully the policy briefs will help you to advocate for ongoing work on your interventions. That's all from me. Anything from you, James or Kirsten? Anyone else on the call?
No, thanks, Joe, and just really encourage everyone to write up their projects, and they're all really impactful and fascinating projects that you've done. So there'll be a lot of interest, I think, with TEFINET. So we'll definitely circulate the call for abstracts when that comes out. And as you know, there's a process that the abstracts go through for selection. So that's done by the TEFINET folks. So not sure how many will be selected, but we'll be building in funding in our next grant round to support people from PNG to attend the TEFINET conference. But as Joe's mentioned as well, there's always other opportunities, including the medical symposium, and in the following year, the global TEFINET as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll keep an ear out for any other conferences, and yeah, we'll ask all of you as well, just to let us know if there's any events in PNG where you can present. Yeah, and I think there will be other conferences in the region, so we'll keep an ear out for that. It's just TEFINET is such an amazing experience to network and meet so many FETPs from around the world. It's in Canberra too, so we're very excited for next year, and would love to just see as many abstracts in as possible.
And just a reminder for those who have been to were at the TEFINET earlier this year, that the abstract that was submitted to that one can't be resubmitted again. So it has to be a totally new abstract. You can't submit the same abstract to multiple conferences. You can only do it to one. But a lot of you have lots of abstracts you could write, so that's not a problem. It just can't be the same one that you've already used in the past.
Yeah, thanks, James. Yep, good point. But it's okay to submit it to the PNG symposium, I figure. Actually, we might double check that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the exception, Joe. Like, you probably can resubmit to that because it's a little bit more of a meeting rather than an official conference, I think, the symposium.
Okay, well, thanks, everyone. Well, it's a chat. Okay, thanks, Stuart. And will you be in Brisbane for 6 months, Stuart? Is that the?
I'll be in Brisbane for 12 weeks for the next 3 block courses. So I am still working on this project on non-communicable diseases in Lake District for my the major project. So I have lots of things colliding with my work here. So the additional task is the current session. So Kerstin, we will be communicating which one will be easier for me to do it with others. We'll be having a separate discussion outside of this conversation.
Yeah, that sounds good, Stuart. I think the abstracts take time to put together, but it's tricky because you're trying to capture the most important points in a really short paper, really. So it can take a lot of time to capture the key points concisely or briefly, because there is a tendency to want to try and include everything. So I think just something for everyone to bear in mind when you're writing abstracts, that it's really about what are the most important points that we want the TEPINet to know, and especially the slide that's up at the moment from Joe around how abstracts are assessed, making sure that you tick off those key points. Sorry, Stuart, that was a little bit of a deviation from what you were just talking about, but yeah, very happy to think and work with what is a project that's ready and easy to turn into an abstract that way. Especially, I know all of you guys have a lot of things going on, so it's thinking about the project that is of interest, of impact, but also is at a stage that's ready to be able to incorporate into an abstract as well.
Yeah, thanks, Kirsten. Very good point.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks everyone. And yeah, no worries, Bernie. We'll send the link out and the slides. And yeah, happy to help with anything, but please get in touch with your mentors. They're all very keen as well to help you with your abstracts.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks everyone. Great to touch base as well. Glad to hear you're all going very well. Very busy, but glad you're all going well as well. And very proud of you all for your ongoing work. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.